think in a cool way, my listeners have loved the new kind of version of Call Her Daddy. And then I guess this is the last part of also, I don't plan. There's one day that it's not like I need an episode like this one day and then this. It's every week I walk in and I'm like, I think I know who I want to interview because it feels right. And I read all the DMs from the daddy gang, and I still have all my social media accounts. No one runs the Call Her Daddy account or my account. And I just read all these DMs of someone struggling with a narcissistic parent. And immediately I'm like, let's get Dr. Ramani on. Let's have her come on. Let's talk about how to survive a narcissistic relationship. Like, it ebbs and flows. I would love to be like, I have this perfect structure. I am eyeballing it because I also am a consumer, and I'm like, what am I interested in? Because I love being in tune with my audience, that I'm able to be like, I know what they want because I want it too. It's an ebbing and flowing relationship with respect. There's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people that want me to fail. But I do think specifically this last year, I've come really into my own of like, I want to make amazing content for the people that want to listen. And if you don't want to listen, you don't have to listen. But I always do say, give it a chance, because you will be surprised at the new Call Her Daddy. It's different. And I'm really proud of it because I put a lot of work into it.
And you should be. I personally am a fan, and I've loved the evolution of it. I've watched a ton of the interviews. I mean, for me, I couldn't agree with you more that whoever sits in front of me, whether they're a celebrity, whether they're not, whether they're a scientist, a doctor, a host, whatever they may be, like, I just want to create exactly what you said. Like, we're so aligned on that. Like, create a safe space where people can feel they can be themselves. And they're not being forced to be someone, and they're not being forced to be the one version that we see. But I think what I really took away from what you're saying is that even though you're right, I know what you're saying, that there's no weekly structure. It's not like you're trying to figure out like, oh, we're going to do this and that. Actually, when you hear you explain, when I just heard you explain how sex and mental health are so interconnected, that is very coherent. And that's very cohesive. So even if there isn't a plan every week of who you're talking to, all that kind of stuff, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it's like no one would ever know that or think about that. And this is what I think. We think so shallow now, right? Like, everything's a shallow thought. And when I say shallow, I don't mean the subject matter. I mean how deeply we consider an idea. So Alex has changed what she talks about on her podcast slightly. Right? She's still doing the sex podcast. She's still talking about those things, but she's also talking about mental health and therapy and whatever she wants to talk about. That's a shallow thought. Oh, Spotify's told her to do that. She can't talk about sex anymore because whatever, right? Like whatever it is. I don't know what it is. I'm literally making stuff up. But then when you take that thought deeper, you go, okay, wait, when I actually listen to Alex explain it, she's like, I should be willing to talk about mental health and sex because they're so interconnected.
They are.
I should be able to talk about mental health and anything in my life because it's so interconnected. And I feel it. I just love that description. Like, I'm just holding on to that. That's my biggest takeaway from what you said, because I think it's unhealthy mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically for us to think that any subject matter is separate from any other in the human experience.
I agree. And I feel like, especially with sex and having been a woman and trying to now, like, I'm not trying to get away from it. I'm just trying to prove like there's other things about me. What a concept. And that respect has been something that I keep pushing up against, of like, it almost, I think at first, I'll be honest, made me want to go so far away from it because it's what everyone just wanted to pigeonhole me as. And I feel like, especially with the season 2 that's going to come out of Call Her Daddy at the end of September into October, like, you're going to see a shift, because I feel like when I was in my 20s, I kind of mentioned this earlier, everyone's self-involved. We're just trying to understand. Like, I remember getting out of college being so miserable. I hated my job. I hated my life. I was like, what am I doing with my life? You're just trying to quite literally survive. And where I'm at now in my life at 28, I just turned 28, and I feel I genuinely have a different interest for what is happening in the world. Like, I know this may not be the most relatable thing, but like, I have one of the biggest platforms specifically. Well, I know, I just found out my show is the #1 biggest listened to show for women in the world for a podcast. All I think when I hear that, that's great. Let's frame it. My mom may frame it. Responsibility. That's what I take from that. How am I not going to start talking about deeper topics and things that are genuinely going to affect generations to come, having such a big platform, I feel a sense of responsibility of, what am I doing? Open my eyes, start reading the news. Like, I just feel there's a different level that I'm taking this show to, and it's not to become preachy, and it's not to become political, and it's not to become in your face. It's going to have that same genuine nature Call Her Daddy has always had. I am coming to them just having a conversation. I want both sides to participate. I want people to feel so comfortable. I'm not asking you anything. I'm just wanting people to listen and to maybe have a thought-provoking conversation that could potentially change your mind or strengthen your view on something. I feel like in a world of such snap judgment because of social media, people are inclined to make decisions so quickly based off of a headline or a photo or whatever it is, or gossip. And I like how what I want to do with Call Her Daddy is, wouldn't you feel so much better if you could make your decision with a more 360 POV on something? And that is what podcasting does. Long form sit downs, get to know someone, get to understand a topic, an issue, an argument, and then make your judgment. Because that is amazing if you leave being like, I have the same opinion. Amazing. But now don't you feel better that you have a bit more of an educated opinion rather than a snap judgment? Or most times what people do when they listen to Call Her Daddy is, okay, I admit I was judging them. My mind changed. I just had someone on and all of the DMs were, I don't know if I really thought I liked them anymore, and now I'm obsessed again because I forgot what they went through in their life, and I was completely unattached to the empathy level because all I see is social media posts. So I hope people feel that. And again, I'm not trying to be this like preachy. I don't know what I'm doing half the time, you know, but I just feel a sense of responsibility. And I hope that my audience can feel like it's just a journey, because what else are we doing here? I want everyone to have fun. We want to have laughs. We're going to continue to have that. And especially being a woman right now, it's like, if I don't speak up, I'm not doing my job, and I won't be able to sleep at night knowing that I didn't do something that actually was just right in front of me that I could have done. And I have such a platform. And so I'm sure everyone can know what I'm kind of talking about, but yeah, vote. Okay.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, personally hearing that, and you don't need to hear this from me, and I'm only saying it because I genuinely mean it, and for whatever it's worth, it's like, I love that. Like, I personally appreciate that so much, because I only went out to start building a platform in the desire to serve. Like, I only started this journey hoping that we'd be able to help people. It never came from anything else. It started in that place, and it's still in that place today. And when I hear someone who's like, hey, I was 22 and now I'm growing up and this is life, and I like look at that and I go, I love people who do that. And you know, a lot of people that I work with in my coaching practice, it's like, that's where they are. Like, they became famous through music, or they became famous through movies, or they became famous through whatever. And now they're having that same journey in their life where they go, Jay, I have like hundreds of millions of people who listen to me and they care about what I have to say. I don't want to be the person who just has a great home, business, and life. I want to do more than that. And to me, I think when people who have the opportunity to say that, and then go follow it up, that's when the world starts becoming a better place. It does. And I think it is really, it's a hard concept, especially when you have a podcast. I don't see all these people, right? Of course, yeah. You know, when I'm told, oh, your podcast is also the biggest podcast for millennials and Gen Z, I'm like, so that is an audience that has the opportunity to quite literally change the world. Yeah. What am I doing? Yeah. And it doesn't need to be every episode. I just think there's a different level of awareness I have right now, and I don't have it figured out. I am not perfect by any means. I definitely present a certain way on social media for my business, but like what I'm trying to do is just take my education public and just use this platform and not be better than anyone, just genuinely be like, I'm learning. I literally said to my team, and I was like, I will publicly say this, like a couple years ago, I remember when I got out of college, I had to call my dad and be like, I don't know how to, like, how am I going to vote, Dad? Like, what? I'm in Boston. I'm from Pennsylvania. Where am I registered? Like, I don't even know how to vote.
And I am not ashamed to say that. I think people feel so overwhelmed with certain things in life of college does not prepare us for a lot, right? And there's a lot that we're like, what are we doing? And I think when you have people on platforms that are acting like you don't know what you're doing, it makes you feel ashamed. It makes you feel insecure. And then you just don't do anything. So I think Call Her Daddy also this season is really trying to just make it ingestible for everyone of like, I'm with you guys. I am also still like a couple years ago, my dad was helping me on TurboTax. Okay. I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm learning, and I hope that I hope that people appreciate me just trying to make a little bit of a change, because there's a lot of power in podcasting and in these really intimate conversations. That's the best part about podcasting. It is such an intimate relationship that we have with our listeners, and I don't take it for granted. So there you go.
No, you're spot on. Like, I think we genuinely close off when we think we're surrounded by a community of people who know it alls, or And I think that's when people start to lie. That's when people start to hide. Like, I think everyone, like millennials and Gen Z, everyone right now feels the pressure to know how to be an investor. Like, because investing is the cool thing.
Right.
And it's like, if you don't know how to buy an NFT, if you didn't know how to buy crypto when it was like booming and everyone was like talking big, it was like, if you didn't know how to do those things, it was like, who are you? You can't be cool. If you don't know how to vote, like, oh, well, then you don't care, or all of these things. And it's like, I don't think any of those things were ever explained to anyone. And we're just listening to one random 30-second TikTok and being like, oh my God, I need to buy that. I need to do this. And I'm like, I fully agree with what you're saying. Like, yeah,
social media has definitely made us all feel a little bit like we're behind. Like, what am I missing? Or I'm not in on that. Or I'm feeling excluded. Or maybe I'm not cool enough. I don't look a certain way. I don't know how to do something. And it's like, that's what I've tried to take a little step back from social media recently and really focus on. Like, I have the same 3 best friends since I was 6 years old. I have my family. I have my relationship. I have my amazing team now, Call Her Daddy, comprised of all women. They're amazing. I feel everyone's always like, what's the best thing that came from your Spotify deal? And I was like, that I can now hire a team of these amazing people. But I do feel like you have to also, everything's with a grain of salt on social media. Try to also just be more present. Like, I found myself the other month on my phone, on TikTok, scrolling. I'm by myself. There's a beautiful sunset at my new house, and I'm scrolling on TikTok. And I, for a minute, had this moment of like, hold on. I'm watching a random girl in her bedroom doing whatever she's doing, and I don't know her. And I'm sitting on my couch, lovely woman, whoever she is, wasting my time watching someone that I don't know, and this is not changing my life. Go outside, Alex. Go watch the sunset. Go take my dog on a walk. Be present, because it gives me anxiety, I realize, when I don't feel good enough. I don't feel pretty enough. I don't feel like I'm fitting the body standard. And then I start to spiral. And it's like, why are we doing this to ourselves? If we know that it's not helping us, I'm just trying to be a little bit more in the moment with my thoughts of, okay, so step back. You can take it out of your hand and put it down. And I know it's quite literally, doctors are comparing it to an addiction. So that's also something that's helped me with my mental health recently, is like really putting boundaries on social media.
What are some of the new habits of this new Alex and values of this new Alex that are really becoming integrated into your life? Like you just said, like learning about what's happening in the world, like being well informed, educating yourself, taking that online, obviously therapy we've talked about. Like, what are some of the smaller habits that you've developed? Yeah. That's one of them, and that's a beautiful one.
I always joked, I'm a vow I never say this word again. In the beginning of Call Her Daddy and shortly kind of in the pandemic, went down a spiral of like reading Reddit pages about myself and awful things about myself. And I was crushed. Like I said earlier, being bullied, I am a full people pleaser. I want everyone to like me. If I see that one comment, I'm like, and then it's going to affect my content the next week. And I'm going to have a Freudian slip and somehow talk about something that I saw in the comment. I'm trying to, like, oh my God. It was about like a year or so ago, sat down, I think it was with my therapist, and I said, I am never going to open this app again. And if I do, I'm hurting Call Her Daddy. And it helped me take it out of myself of like because it was affecting my content. And I stopped looking at these people that I remember I always used to also be like, they're just hurting in their own life. And we can talk about why people are trolls on the internet for hours, but it's not my problem. I need to drown that out. Whatever those people are going through, whatever they hate me, I know I'm a good person. I know what I'm trying to do. So I stopped reading that about a year ago, and my life, I feel like a different human being. I am taking notes from people that truly care about me. And I'm someone that my producer was like, it's interesting. You love a note. I love a note. I love someone to tell me when I'm doing something wrong, what I'm doing wrong. I love a note. And so I don't surround myself with yes people. I came to LA and I had to make a decision of, who I wanted to hang out with, what I wanted to do. And like, I am sticking to the people that I have known my whole life. I am not open to meeting new friends. I have made new friends in LA, but I'm very specific about who I share my time with. And I think that is totally fair to say. And I think sometimes people are like, oh, this is that, or, oh, you don't have as many friends. I am taking care of my mental health by making sure the people that I'm surrounded with aren't yes people because they're like, oh, we want to come and hang out in Alex's cool house with her cool job. It's people that are like, check yourself. What's up? Like, how are you doing? And I can do the same to them. And so I have made efforts to make sure who I'm around, not only they don't even make me feel good. It's that they're real with me and they treat me. If all this was gone tomorrow, I know those people are going to still be there. Yeah. And I think with social media, I've really gone through periods where I felt like my whole existence was immersed and defined by social media. And literally just through meditating, being alone with my thoughts, going through therapy of when you actually dissect, does something make you feel bad? Yes. So why are you doing it? It's so simple and it is so hard. But the more that I train my brain, it's really helped me. And I think when I go through really awful times on social media, if people are coming at me, if I get the mean comments, this is something that keeps me kind of grounded is I always get through something. In the moment when you are going through something, it is awful and it can be heart-wrenching. You can feel it physically. You can feel alone. You can feel scared. Whatever feeling comes when something bad is happening in your life. But you get through it. And when you get through it, you look back and you're always like, oh, I wish I could have told myself, like, stop stressing, stop overthinking, stop. So what I've had to do is in the moments of crisis, when I'm freaking out, having a panic attack, anxiety, I'm like, okay, hold on. In 2 days, this will be over. Let's go on a walk. Let's take a breath. Let's call people I love. Let's talk to my mom. Let's call my therapist. Let's take all of the stuff that's happening in my head and just calm, pause, connect with people that love me and get out of your kind of psychosis that's happening in your brain. You're going over and over. I always think about I always get through it. I've had so many moments where I'm freaking out. I always get through it. So look at the other side and I don't know, it's easier said than done again, but it helps me be like, I'm going to be there in a couple days or hours. So it's not as bad as it feels. Yeah. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. I think what you're describing is everything is simply a pattern of thought, right? It's just a pattern of thoughts. And the current pattern of thoughts we all have are not serving us. They're not helping us. They're not improving our lives. And the hard part is knowing which thoughts to change and then how to change them. And so the tools you just gave us were really simple ways and practical ways that anyone can start changing their thoughts. And if we just understood that simply by changing your thoughts, you can transform every human experience in the world, whether it's sitting in a cold plunge and you're just changing your thoughts, whether it's doing a hike in the morning, whether it's just getting to the gym, right? Whatever it is, it's just changing your thoughts. Totally. And it's beautiful to hear you figure that out and work through that.
Also journaling. I've had when I go through really hard times, I always journal during and after. And then when I'm going through a crisis again, I'll read the after and even the during. And I'm like, I was spiraling. Look where I am now. I'm sitting on the beach. I'm driving to work. Everything's okay. Yeah. We get through. I have gone through people dying and it's it is the worst. It is the worst, but you have to find a way to keep going. You have to find the positive, right? And I have a lot of friends connected through trauma of things that happened in our childhood. And it's like I had my 2 best girlfriends come and visit me, and they were with me for a week. And we were just talking about life. How am I going to keep going? But then you remember the moment after that where you're laughing on the beach with your friend and you're like, imagine if I didn't keep going. I wouldn't have this beautiful moment with these people. And so it's like always trying to look to the other side. And if you can get there, you can take that breath and be like, thank God I hung in there.
Yeah. What's a belief that you think you've had about yourself that you think led you down the wrong path? Like, is there a specific belief that you once had about yourself that you think kind of went the other way? Like you just said, sometimes you have to push through.
Right.
But sometimes we carry a belief about ourselves and we end up somewhere we don't want to be.
I think because of things that have happened publicly, and there's so many things that have happened publicly for me in my career, I would say it really hurts me when people assume I'm a bad friend. My entire life, that has been the one thing I have felt I'm proud of myself for, truly. Like, my friendships are so valuable to me, and I take such pride in those relationships. And when you have public things and it happens to happen with a woman, it's like the person that comes out on top is the villain, and then the person that didn't is the victim. And I'm not like going at anyone saying that they're calling themselves a victim. I'm just saying that's how the public perceives it. And so as a woman, it upsets me. And I would find myself really struggling at times being like, I know I'm a great friend. Like, I had a friend recently say to me, because she's going through something, and almost like through the tools of my show and therapy, she mentioned to me, she was like, I've never felt you being a better friend than in this moment. Like, I can't thank you for how much you're taking on for me. And I was like, I'm in a good place right now. Like, it's all I can picture doing is helping a friend and being there for someone, because you've been there for me when I've been at the absolute bottom. That's how friendship works, right? And I think friendships are so beautiful because you have to choose to keep it moving, keep it strong. A romantic relationship, it's there. You're together all the time. Friendship, that's hard. Mm-hmm. My friends live across the country. My 3 best friends do not live in Los Angeles, California, and it is a constant effort. And they know me just as much as I know them, and we have been through so much together. But I think that kind of ate at me, and I'm sure you've had it, of like, there's nothing worse than when someone believes something about you that you're like, oh, like, I want to prove that's not true. And I have so many things that could prove that that's not true. But I've had to work on in therapy of like, I can't please everyone. And do my friends know I'm a good friend? That's all that matters. Yeah. The internet thinking I'm this or that, like, if you like my show, you're going to listen, but you're not listening because I'm a good friend. So it's like, I need to prioritize knowing who I am, knowing how deeply I feel for these people that I consider family. That's all that matters. And I don't need to prove that. But I definitely went down moments of like, oh my God, am I trying to talk about this in an episode and prove? It's like, Alex, yeah. If I tried to whack-a-mole everything people think about me, I'm not going to get done interviews. I'll be just doing solo episodes for the rest of my career. Yeah. So that was something that was kind of hard.
Yeah. And there'd still be something about your explanation that wouldn't be enough.
Yep.
And I found that, I mean, I was asked in a podcast a few years ago, someone asked me the question, what's something you used to value that you don't value anymore? And it was a really great question. And we have the video of it. And I'm like sitting there thinking about it. And you can tell it's, you know, when you ask a question and you actually have to think rather than like you've got a million things to say. And I said, being understood. I was like, I just don't value being understood anymore because it's just, it killed me. That desire I had, and I get that people, it's like for years, I just wanted people to know I was a good person and that I had pure intentions and I was trying to serve the world. And I was like, you know what? No one's going to give me the benefit of the doubt. No one cares. And at the end of the day, I have to lose that desire to be misunderstood, to be understood, because most people are going to misunderstand me. And that's okay. It freed me.
That is so beautiful because I relate to that deeply. And I love that you're saying that because being understood is so overrated and exhausting, because who you're mostly trying now in the age of social media to be understood by is people you don't even know.
Yeah.
And what about the people you do know? How much time are you putting? It was a measure for me of, am I putting more effort into the people I don't know than the people I do know? That's check yourself, because I've done that to myself. And I love that you said that, because when you get to that point, it is so freeing, because you're like, I'm me. I don't need, if I say something people take the wrong way, I don't need to now be like, oh my God, I promise I'm a good person. No. You either know or you don't. And I'm not going to run around and chase people and try to convince people of my character. I go to sleep at night. I know I am a good daughter, a good partner, and a good friend. And I know I am not perfect by any means, but I am trying every day through therapy, through just looking inward a lot and trying to be with my thoughts and being more present with the uncomfortable silent moments, trying to just be a better person. And I think it sounds corny even when I say it out loud, but like, what else are we here to do? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Are you good with the people you love and who love you? That's kind of all that matters. And the rest is noise. And we have huge platforms and it's so great. But if all of it ended tomorrow, I would be okay.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could have said that a couple years ago. And I don't want it to end. I love you all. But it's a good feeling, because then I can really put all of me into the podcast, because it's like, I'm going to be me and I'm going to do me until I don't want to do it anymore. And no one can tell me otherwise. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a freeing feeling.
Yeah. And here's what we know. We know that the people that do listen to us every week, they do know us. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel so seen, heard, and understood by my community that listens to me here. And whether they listen to the solos or these guest episodes, like, I know they know me, they understand me. And I always say that if you see me on the streets, please come and say hello, because we can have a great conversation. But at the same time as that, one thing I do know is that I read a study that said you have to spend 200 hours with someone to consider to know them deeply. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking about who in the world have I spent 200 hours with?
Whoa.
And I started to realize it wasn't that many people. And that wasn't something that made me sad. It just made me value those people so much more. So my best friend, who's my best man at my wedding, I've known him for 18 years, and I still talk to him 3 or 4 times a week. I don't know where I find the time. I don't know where he finds the time, but every car journey, whatever I'm doing around LA, I'll call. He's in London, so he had an 8-hour time difference too. God. And he always picks up. We always find a way to connect, and our friendships got better since I left England. And so all my best friends are in London because that's where I grew up. My family's in London. My wife's family's in London. So for us, like, I totally hear what you're saying, that the statement you made that really resonated with me today off of what I said was that being understood is overrated. Mm-hmm. And it's so true, because I would say that I'm still trying to understand even the people I've spent 200 hours with. Mm-hmm. So how am I expecting someone who met me once for 2 minutes
absolutely not
to understand 200-hour version of me?
I would hope not. I hope I'm complex enough that you can't figure me out in a minute. No, I really love that. And I think it's I think that I always say to anyone, especially in 20s, 30s, when you're out of college, it is so depleting at times, because you are stripped of that immediate comfort, friends in, proximity wise, and you're immediately, all of a sudden, you're across the country and your friends and you're like, I don't have friends, and it's a really isolating and lonely time. But I would start with, do you have one person? Do you have one person that you can call? That's really all that matters. And of course, we want friend groups, we want friendships, we want connections. We want to go to parties, guys. Come on. But you have to just start slow with yourselves. And I think a lot of times in your 20s, you almost get dismembered and you have to build yourself back up. And we're really hard on ourselves with those friendships. It's so much easier said than done. But it is a great reward when you can maintain those, because they're beautiful. And like I said, you're not having sex with these people, hopefully. So your friends are just there because they love you hopefully. It gets messy. Don't do it, guys. But no, it's a really powerful relationship.
Yeah, we've talked about friendships, and I want to talk about relationships a bit, because it's a big thing here at On Purpose. And I'm asking this because for me, and this is what we do, right? And this is why I'm very clear on this. And this is one of the best skill I learned from training to become a coach, was to not project my intentions onto other people's actions. So what we often do is when we see someone who does the same thing as us, we assume they did it because of the same reason as us. Oh. So if you see someone lie to someone, if you're someone who would lie to someone because you don't want to upset someone's feelings, you're like, oh, they lied to them because they don't want to upset someone's feelings.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who didn't do something because you were jealous of something, when someone doesn't do that same thing, you're like, oh, that's because they're jealous of them. So we project our intentions onto other people's actions.
So interesting.
And so I'm projecting now. And so I'm being very honest and open about it. My wife and I have been together for 10 years, long before my public life. And we got married 6 years ago, and I started creating content online around the same time as we got married. We'd already been together for 4 years. And I've been creating offline content for 10 years before I started doing online content. So I did events and I spoke and did seminars and workshops and coaching and all this stuff. Anyway, for the first 3 years of my content life, no one knew I was married. It wasn't that I didn't talk about it. It's that I used to make 4-minute videos on Facebook and YouTube. And those 4-minute videos were based on ideas. Long form content hadn't really taken off. And I didn't really feel to post selfies with me and my wife because I was gaining traction from talking about philosophy and psychology and ideas that I cared about. And we just got married too, and it was all new to us. It was like all of a sudden, like when I would post that I was at a restaurant, people would turn up and things like that. And so I was very protective of my mom, my sister, my wife, and just everyone in my life. And then my first ever podcast episode was me interviewing my wife and us talking about how we met and our journey and everything else that came with that. And that was in 2019 when we talked about it. I am so grateful that I didn't do it before then, because it gave my wife time to acclimatize to the new life we'd created. It gave her a sense of stability in what we were doing and where we were going. And it helped me deal with what I needed to deal with in this journey. It wasn't something I would even say I was fully conscious of. I guess my question to you is, do you think having a relationship that you're open about, but that is private, consciously improves the quality of relationship you can build? I'm projecting that I think it's healthy, but you don't have to buy into my projection.
You know what? I'm going to buy in. Okay. I do. I definitely, it's interesting because when I met my boyfriend, I had already podcasted about him before our first date. And I remember podcasting, I was in Los Angeles and we were going to a dinner, and I'm podcasting about my wants and my needs and all the things that I'm expecting for this date to go. I had never met this man in my life. Classic Alex, just going for it for the podcast. Got to give the daddy gang what they want. And I show up to the date, and halfway through I'm like, oh, you're going to be on next week's episode. And he's a very private person, and he was like, what? And I was like, it's going to be so good. And then I'm going to go back and record whatever happens at the end of the night. And he was like so shocked. I will say, I think he thought it was quite charming. I love how men are always like, oh, I don't want to be on. They love being on. But with him, it was interesting because I went all the way in and I started talking about him from the beginning. And then I had to pull it back because I realized, oh, well, this is a real relationship. And I have so much respect for him. And he's in the entertainment industry, but he's private. And he in a great way, this is how I knew he was the one. He never said, don't talk about me, but he asked that we just have conversations about it and just keep talking about it. And I've had past relationships where it was like, F your show, I don't care. And he has such a respect for my craft that he recognizes that is kind of what you do for a living, and your life is your living. But I did start to pull back, and I know it's not fun to hear, but my relationship couldn't be better because of it. All of a sudden, he didn't have to wake up in the morning and press play and listen to what I said. And we weren't getting DMs about our relationship. And it really allowed us to just be present of, hey, do we like each other?
Yeah.
I've said to people, and I'm not judging people that post on social media with their partner. I always just like to check myself, and then I just tell people what I'm doing, and if you want to, do it too. But it's like, there's some relationships I worry, are you just together still because the public loves you? And that is not healthy. And I think that with social media, people can become addicted to the concept of this perfect relationship and what it looks like. Well, what is it like behind closed doors? I am so fortunate that I don't have that with my partner. I'm with him because I love him and I love our relationship, and none of it is contingent upon either of our jobs. So that's been very healthy. Was it hard? Yeah, of course. There's great content in there. And occasionally I will share. But I told my listeners one rule that I implemented with my partner was, if we have an argument or a fight or a disagreement or whatever, and it's an open wound at the time for the relationship, I made the mistake once of going and talking about it on the podcast too soon, that we hadn't even healed. And my partner is so mature that he was like, I love you so much, but I think we need boundaries, because hearing that is not fun. And it almost made it worse for me because we haven't resolved it. And so now I have this I have a boundary where it's like a couple months later, I can totally talk about it. Because he was like, some of our arguments are great for couples to think about and talk about. They're very relatable. But I think in the moment, it's always good to just put my relationship first. And it doesn't mean I'm not putting the show first. It's just having a good set boundary that I didn't have before. And I'm really, really happy I've done it.
Yeah, I've loved hearing today about how many different boundaries you put into different areas of your life.
I am putting boundaries
You're like
up,
winning
Jay.
Winning at boundary setting. No, but it's so important, because I think the problem is that we think of life as either or, and life is more boundaries and layers and levels. And it's like, we think I'm either close to this person or I'm not. And I'm like, no, you're closer to this person than this person.
Yep.
It's not that you're close or not. And I think when you start looking at life as degrees, and, you see a little ripple in different degrees versus yes or no.
Absolutely. And I think the concept of, again, this is all for public consumption.
Yeah.
Posting your partner for people, in my case, that I don't know, right? And even a lot of people, even if you have 1,000 followers on Instagram, do you have 1,000 friends? Absolutely not, Becky. Okay, you do not have 1,000 friends. So I always am also just like, what is the motive behind posting your partner? Is it to get validation that you're not getting in the relationship? Is it to seek approval? Is it to show off something that you're proud of, but well, if you were super, confident, would you need that exterior validation, right? And again, I'm not saying not to post your partner. It's really just, I think with social media, we've been so quick to just throw stuff up about our life. And it's like, well, why are you doing that? Who was that for? Why do you feel the need to show people that you don't even know how your relationship is going and write these long captions about it? I totally get trying to connect with people. But there is a level that I started to find of I think I'm just doing this because this is helping content. It's not good for my relationship. I need to pull back.
Yeah. And I love that who it's for question, because I do that exercise with myself when I post stuff. I post certain things and I know no one cares, but I really care about it. It's a big deal for me or whatever. And then I'll post it and I'll already tell the team, I'll be like, do not look at the likes, do not look at the comments. I know it's going to do terribly, but it's really important to me. And I want it to be out there, because to me, that's really, really, powerful. And obviously we only put out things that we think are powerful, of course, but there are certain things that I know no one cares about apart from me. And at the same time, I think for me, what I was getting at was that 3 years of being married for me and my wife gave us a sense of getting to know each other in that way without having to deal with any opinions, right now, all we ever get when we post anything is just, you guys look like brother and sister.
No, stop.
And I'm like, that's not what I would have wanted to hear when we just got married. So I'm very happy that we didn't, because that's all we ever get. And so I'm like, all right, this is great. But
that's the thing, you're never gonna, there's always gonna be the negatives.
Totally,
and so that's what also I'm really protective of it, because I'm like, I'm so happy. He's so happy. Our families love each other. We're doing good. We are by no means a perfect couple, but I have no interest right now in opening that up for public consumption to just have an opinion. Yeah. I don't need it. I want to know, am I in this because I like him? That's it.
Yeah.
Great. Stick with it.
Last question on relationships.
Okay.
I think a lot of people ask what do you look for in someone? I think for me, it's the opposite way around. What do you think you want someone to bring out in you that you see as a healthy relationship? What are you happy being when you're in a good place?
I'm a lot. I'm self-aware enough to know I'm a lot. And really, when I say I'm a lot, I think my job is a lot, right? And I am so passionate. Like I've said, I've been doing this since I was so young. I would be making these videos. No one was seeing them. I was acting like they were going to be up for an Academy Award. No one was. My parents were barely watching them.
Do you still have them?
Oh, they're awful. Yes,
we need them.
It's shocking. They're like, we're going to play it one day at your wedding. I'm like, so I'm not getting married then. But the point is I have always felt like what I'm doing and my passion is so a part of me. And I need a partner that is going to support me, especially in a heterosexual relationship. Can a man be okay with, I'm okay if I'm the breadwinner. It's not the case in my relationship. We're pretty equal, but it's like, I need to be able to be myself, and I need my partner to not be intimidated by my success, not try to hold me down. Let me be me and you be you. And if we come together and we make each other better, amazing. But I've had relationships with men where they were extremely intimidated by my success, and it was constantly trying to push me down, language that was semi-abusive, of trying to make me feel less than, and it was really toxic and it affected me. And now being in a healthy relationship with someone that is like, you are incredible, I support you, is like my number one cheerleader. That to me is the hottest thing that someone can do. And I'm so attracted to my partner because of that. I also think someone that is so honest. My partner is so honest with me. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, it's like I'm not used to the honesty. And I really respect that because I am a no bull person. I'm like, what's up? What's going on? And to meet my match kind of with that, we do no dance arounds. Like it is just like, what is up? And I know some people don't like that. You need a little like cushion. I am like, hit me where it hurts. Let's get this over with. So I think those two things, the honesty, and also just allowing me to be who I am. And I know it sounds pretty straightforward, but a lot of people try to change each other. You're laughing. What did I say?
No.
What did I say? Jay's like, I relate.
No, yeah, I'm laughing because you literally, there was something you said that just totally reminded me of something this weekend. So anyway, but carry on. I'll tell you in a second.
Okay. The point is I've learned in relationships, like you talked about projection, there's so much projection. If you don't work on yourself and whatever your form of therapy for yourself is, if you don't know who you are, you're going to go into a relationship and quite literally look for the things you want out of that person. And you're going to put unrealistic expectations onto this person. And you don't even know if you actually like them because you're just trying to get what you want. It's like, wait, you don't even like the homie. Like, get out of here. Like, and so I think stripping it down to, do you like them as who they are as a human being, and not honestly also for how they make you feel all the time? Yeah. Do you like them as an individual, and do you two match up? Of course you want them to make you feel good, but I think sometimes we project our wants and our needs and everything onto a person. It's like, hold on. Work on your own and then come back and see if you like the person. Because a lot of times the person you're with is just fulfilling something that's an insecurity of yours. If you filled that insecurity, would you still need to be with that person?
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. Well said.
Therapy session 101. Okay.
No, I love it. You remind. So I was doing something important last week, and my wife is
doing something important as in being at a wedding? Yes. I was going to open this entire episode with, so how was the wedding? I'm going to start interviewing
I will tell you that separately. I'll tell you about it offline.
Okay.
I will tell you about it offline. But I was preparing for something last week, and my wife is that person to me. So I know that, and I have an amazing team who's very honest with me for sure. Like I definitely we literally we're looking at headshots for like my book coming out next year. And so the team was like, look, and we were like, no, like I'm doing it with my team. Yep. And it's always the most painfully thing of like looking at your own face and all. Yeah. And anyway, but my wife like takes it to another level. So she's like, all right, do a speech in front of me. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. And I set myself up for it every time because I know she's going to give me really good feedback, but my male ego can't take it. So I'll do it. And then she'll be like, oh yeah, but this part didn't make sense. I'm like, no, but this is why I did it that way.
She's like, but I'm telling you as a viewer, and you're not going to be able to explain to everyone why you said this.
So. And I get super defensive. And then she's like, but say it like this. And then I'm like, no, but the way you just said it didn't sound good anyway. And it's like, I get so defensive. But and then I took all her feedback and I did it exactly that way.
That is iconic. Also, my boyfriend did that. He had a speech he had to do at his brother's wedding, and we were upstairs in the room, and he's practicing, he's pacing, he's freaking out. And I'm like, it's coming off weird when you say it like that. It's not hitting. You're trying to be funny. You're not funny. Okay. He's like, oh, okay. And I was trying to give constructive feedback, and he was freaking out, and he's like losing his mind. And I'm like, sit down. let me rewrite it for you. I'm the comedian in the relationship. Let's move forward. And it was funny though, because he was really freaking out. But then at the end of the day, he's like, okay, I trust you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you got to do a little push and pull, and then you're like, okay, shit, I trust you.
Yeah, and then there's some stuff that I just hide from her in the practice because I know I want to do it anyway. And so then I don't show her that bit. And she was like, oh, that bit was really good. I'm like, see, if I showed it to you, you would have thought it was good. So.
But the constructive criticism was good, and then you added your little flair, and it all went well.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Good.
Alex, we end every On Purpose episode with two. You're the first person to ever do this.
Okay.
So we have our Fast Five, but we also have our new segment, which very aptly is called The Many Sides of You, one word. We're still figuring out the name. We're getting there. But we're going to do this. So what this is you're going to give a word for every one of these things, just one word.
Oh, God.
And it's all about you.
Oh, God.
So are you ready?
I don't know if I like this. Okay.
All right. What is a word or phrase to describe what someone would say about you when they meet you for the first time?
I would say warm and trustworthy, which is really weird. Oh, I forgot you said warm in the beginning.
That's fine though.
Yeah.
I agree. I obviously agree.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people that just, I think, again, on social media, you think one thing of me and then you meet me and you're like, oh, wait, like I had a waitress I met this past week and she DM'd me after and was like, I didn't think you'd be that nice. I'm like, guys, I'm not a scary person, but I do think I have a warmth that makes people feel really comfortable.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. What is a word someone that knows you very well would use to describe you, or a phrase?
Ooh, determined. Sometimes scary. I think my boyfriend and my parents are like, oh God, here she goes. Like, I'm going to finish this and it's going to be the best thing. And they're like, okay, just get out of her way. Here she goes. Like, very determined.
I love that. What is a word or phrase you would use to describe yourself?
Loyal and passionate. Those two things like resonate so much with me in two completely different ways. But a part of who I am truly is my craft. And I'm so passionate about it. Even if I made no money on it tomorrow, I would go back. I would still be making content. And I'm also passionate about anything I'm doing in my life. I have to be passionate about my family, my relationships, my friends. And loyalty to me is number one. I respect anyone that's loyal. And to me, it's like the number one thing on the list of something in a relationship that I look for, and I take pride in being loyal.
I love that. That's beautiful. I love those qualities.
Thank you.
Easier than asking you what your values are. I like it.
Yeah.
What is a word that maybe someone who doesn't like you would say about you? Ooh. How would they describe you?
Cocky.
Mm-hmm.
Damn right. Damn right. You gotta be. You gotta be.
It. And the last one, what is a word or phrase you're trying to embody? Something that you're working on right now?
Intentional.
Mm-hmm.
I really am trying to, in every aspect of my life, always ask, what is the objective? Try to be more intentional about things, because I think when you do things with care, everything is better. People feel better about it. Mm-hmm. You feel better. And also there's a different radiating effect when you're intentional about things. So whether it's in my relationships or my craft, like I'm very trying to be intentional, especially this year.
I love that. That's a great word.
This is a good game.
That was great. You did good. You did good. All right. These are the final five. But before we do that, I want to ask you, Alex, like, was there anything that you shared anything you haven't shared today that you really wanted to share, or something you wanted to talk about? And I'm asking this online, offline, as just to honor you in terms of if there's something that we've missed, or do you want to dive more into like, and I'm happy to, because I could talk to you for hours. I have no time limit. I'm happy to dive into you with like talking more about the entrepreneurship side and the craft side and the business side.
I think in a really cool way. I didn't know where this was going to go today, and I'm really happy. I hope that who I am behind the camera kind of came out today. And I guess I would just say to anyone listening, and this is not like a plug for my show, it's more like I think this year I've tried to start, especially when I'm sitting down with people, to give people the benefit of the doubt and a chance to hear, even if I have misconceptions about someone. And so I just hope anyone listening, if you maybe had a judgment about Call Her Daddy back in the past or of me, I ask just to be open-minded and kind of just give it another chance, because one, I think everyone deserves that. And two, I really am proud of what I'm doing, and I'm proud of the show and the direction it's taken. Not to say that I'm not proud of the past, but I think people would be surprised at where it's gone and how much it's grown. And I just would ask for a chance and give it a listen. And that's it.
I love that. I love that. And you're doing it. And honestly, from like I keep saying, you don't need it from me, but whatever it's worth, it's like, I just love watching people grow and try new things and take risks and like do something that's fresh and new. And then everything you said about impact and responsibility and even the interviews you have done, like for me, it's beautiful to watch that. And so, you know, congrats not on this external success, of course, on that, but more on like doing the hard thing, right? Like that's what's more interesting to me. And I think as a creator and as a host, it's like doing the hard thing. It's like to keep feeding whatever everything on everyone wants is easy, but to actually switch and say, I've changed, I've grown, I've evolved, and this is where I'm going now. And that's where so many people at 50, 60, 70 years old feel so empty, because for the last 25 years, they just did what other people wanted them to do.
Totally. And it's like, you got to go for it.
I just don't want to be in that position.
No. Anyone listening, if you've wanted to do something, you got to go for it, because we have literally no idea how much time we have here. And that's what I'm doing with this, especially this season. I'm like, oh, I'm going for it. I believe in something. I'm going to go for it, and I'll handle whatever comes with that.
Yeah. I love that. All right, Alex, I've got 5 questions left for you. These are the fast 5.
Okay.
Alex Cooper, these are your fast 5. Okay. Question number 1, what is the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, this is so generic, but it's so true. It's from my mother. Be yourself. In a world of people trying to tell you what to be, what to do, be yourself, know yourself. And the journey of knowing yourself is going to be just as long if you're going to know yourself or you're going to go with what people want you to be. Be yourself. It's so much more rewarding at the end of the day.
I love it. All right. Second question. What is the worst advice you've ever received?
Be quiet. Where would that have gotten me, guys? I mean, a microphone, myself. Here we go. Don't be quiet. Speak your mind. Go for what you want and bulldoze through doors.
Question number 3. What position did you play in soccer?
Center midfield.
Okay. All right. That's cool. I was center attacking midfield. So.
That's great. Also, sometimes I would go on the flanks.
Yeah. Basically, my role, for anyone who doesn't know soccer, my position would let Alex's role do all the running.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Yep. I love to run.
Yeah. I don't know if you've been, I recently invested in Angel City FC. And so I would love to take you to a game. It'd be so fun, because I grew up obviously wanting to play soccer professionally, and I was never good enough. Right. But my sister loves soccer too, and she played. And I was just like, if I ever have a daughter, I was like, I want her to have the opportunity. So that's why I invested
such a good sport.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And they're so good. So they're fun to watch. So we have to figure that out.
Thank you.
Question number 4. How would you describe your current purpose?
My current purpose is to use my platform to hopefully empower and unite women, also underrepresented communities, and try to elicit change. There's a lot we got to do right now, and specifically with women's rights. And so I would say my purpose is trying to use my platform to excite people for change, not scare them. This is an exciting time. It is a great time to have a vagina. We have to look at it that way, or we're only going to regress and keep getting pushed. this year. Okay. I don't think anyone's probably said vagina this many times on your podcast.
Definitely not.
It's to inspire and bring people with me on this journey of educating myself and taking my education public.
Love that. And I'm with you. Whatever help I can give. Fifth and final question. If you could create one law that everyone in the world had to follow, what would it be?
Abortions are legal.
Well said. That's a real law.
Thank you. That's a real law.
Yeah.
Now let's put it back where it was.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I love it. Alex Cooper, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no, thank you. That was without a doubt, I think, the most fun I've ever had. That was so much fun. That was unbelievable.
I am honored to have been here.
Amazing.
Thank you for giving me the time and the space and your platform. This is amazing.
No, I am so grateful, honestly. That was smart, funny, intellectual, thoughtful, deep. I mean, it was every emotion I want to feel on any given day. And you were just an absolute, I don't know what the right word is. Like, you're a maverick. Like, you know, it's just, it's amazing also I love witnessing high performing people in this way. And like watching you, I'm like, this person's such a pro. Like, just